the one sacrifice that manifests it all. Now, the sacrifice in question is a prerequisite for any chosen successful manifestation. And it doesn't matter what you want to manifest, a cup of coffee, your SP, or $1 million. A sacrifice must always be made. Every time, no exceptions. It's due to the sacrifices that you've made, however small or unnoticeable they have been to you consciously, that you've been able to manifest anything or anyone. And some of you who are more well versed in conscious manifestation, otherwise referred to on this channel as the path to Christ consciousness, will be fully aware of this because you can't manifest without it. But if you're not, and you're serious about manifesting what you currently desire, what you are lacking right now, we need to cover some foundational levels of understanding so that you're clear on what you need to do to become the person living their desired end, their wish fulfilled. Now, I understand we all have our own emotional definitions that we apply to words, so to be very clear, the word sacrifice is not referencing anything ritualistic, as in the Old Testament. You're not being asked to surrender, let go, or relinquish your power either. So first we need to be in alignment with what true sacrifice means in this context for this to make sense to you. Biblically, sacrifice is the act of giving to God the I am, all whose kingdom resides within you, your time, your focus, your energies, your faith, so you can renounce or destroy who you are not for the sake of an ideal. The ideal being the version of you who already has what you watching this are still desiring. That's why we're asked in Ephesians to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. Deceitful desires means false, because to desire something means you think or believe you're without it, that you're in lack. Now, desires are not a bad thing, they're just false. A desire is an illusion. And the only reason why you think or believe you desire something or someone is because manifestation refers to the process of bringing a desired outcome, goal, or a vision into reality by aligning one's thoughts, beliefs, actions, and energy with that outcome. But when you read or hear the word reality, you immediately think of the 3D and not the kingdom of God which is within. That's why you use manifestation techniques in order to bring someone or something into the 3D. That's why you wait, and you're not being asked to do that. That isn't how we manifest. And that's the same reason why I get comments like, can God really overcome any circumstances? What if I'm blocked? What if my SP has moved on? What if I didn't get the job? What if the bank manager said no? What if I didn't get that house? Can it still manifest? You're still relying on the 3D to dictate how you feel, think, and what you believe to be true. You're relying on the 3D to give you reasons to have faith. That's why you search for evidence, why you want success stories to keep going, because you're persevering and wanting the 3D to be different and not persevering in focusing on and aligning your energies on your chosen reality. That is what brings it into your reality. The 3D doesn't need to be ignored or avoided for that matter. It needs to become irrelevant to you because it is irrelevant to who you are choosing to be within reality now. The unseen within does not have to be affected by 3D circumstances out there. And if you implement these teachings, you will experience that. It's how we become twice born, one from water, from the womb, and then in spirit when we act in faith by placing importance on reality within and not in the seen 3D reflection. I had a client who I worked with on my long-term program. Brilliant, beautiful, and incredibly intelligent, top of her career, whose reality within was filled with injustice, reliving all the injustices she had experienced in her human lifetime. And that continuous manifestation of the unjust reality she was focused on, which had made her a bully of herself, putting immense amount of pressure on herself, caused not only repeated injustices in the 3D, but a particularly harsh argument between her and her SP, which ended in a breakup. And she tried scripting and some visualization, but nothing was changing. Nothing was working. And she tried reaching out and explaining how she felt to encourage him to apologise, but that didn't work either. And the more she looked for the 3D to change, the more she waited for her SB to return. So she could feel that relief, feel okay again, have justice restored through his acknowledgement of what he did wrong against her. And the more anxious and worried she became within her reality. She suffered over the deceitful desire that she was in lack, because her sight was set on the seen, which biblically refers to the 3D world, and not on the unseen, which is within, where Christ is in you. There was no sacrifice made. Instead, she had inadvertently exercised her power from within, as we have all done, in a way that gave that SP, that person in the 3D, as the one who held all of the power over how she could feel and be, the root of all of our suffering. That's the story she was affirming and focused upon and ruminating over, and that was reflected in the 3D. And it's reflected in the 3D so that you can make a choice, not to punish you, but for you to make a choice. But when she sacrificed that injustice, within 3 days, who do you think arrived at her door in tears, giving her a heartfelt apology? Her SP. And what is brilliant about this is during our time together, she was able to ask him, what made you do that? And he told her that before, he felt fine about the argument and the breakup. She hadn't even crossed his mind. So all the time she felt that injustice within reality, all that time spent needing an apology, he wasn't even thinking about her. Making the 3D a true reflection of her reality within, because people and places and circumstances cannot be any different to the vibration you're offering. And there are a multitude of ways you can create your vibration. I teach all of it on this channel, affirming, visualizing, beliefs, telling a new story. But you can also act in faith. And when she sacrificed the root cause of what was keeping her checking, waiting, looking for the 3D to change, for him to show up differently so that she could feel how she wanted, he returned. Notice she didn't even have to consciously manifest her SB specifically to make that happen. She wasn't focused on him. She was focused on releasing herself from the injustice she was carrying around within her reality that was causing everything to be unjust in the 3D. The lack of apology, the lack of understanding, the separation, the finality of these circumstances. It is always and will always be about your internal state of reality. It is never about the other person. All they are reflections of your internal state. They are the tangible representations of whatever's going on within you. To have her SP back, she just had to give up what was causing the separation within her in the first place. In this case, it was the injustice, but it can be anything. And that stopped the symptoms of stress, of anxiousness, of worry, of the egoic demands on how people should treat her. And when she did, he told her that he suddenly felt bad and wanted to make it right. And how that all came to be was a spontaneous text exchange over work schedules, which you cannot plan, you cannot foresee, because the how is not your responsibility. Focusing on living the end, free from injustice, free from the heartbreak, or free from the stress and worry that keeps the money away, is your responsibility. And she did it again during our time together. She manifested back 2 SPs, in fact, because God was actually helping her to make a choice of what she really wanted versus following the ego of what she needed. And as she started to get into the rhythm of this, of utilizing her power to decide how her reality was right now, more wonderful things happened. And of course, as humans, when we are learning to utilize this power, we go in and out of this knowing, but Pick your heart. At least this is a worthy pursuit. It's a lot harder, I tell you now, to focus on outside circumstances that are keeping you under the illusion that you're trapped and you have no choice than it is to focus your mind on having faith, on acting in faith, on keeping your minds set on things above and not on earthly things. When she agreed to meet friends in Paris and they told her that the tickets to go up the Eiffel Tower were sold out, she responded, "We have them." She just decided it was done. She didn't lie down and meditate for 30 minutes. She just decided that it was done, that she had the tickets. And later her friend emailed her to confirm they got the tickets. It was effortless. She decided as an act of faith that this is how things were now. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor will people say, 'Here it is,' or 'There it is,' because the kingdom of God is within you." Everything you're looking for is already yours because reality is within you right now. So what do you say it is? If you're with your SP, if you have the money, focusing on that reality is acting as the I am, your highest identity, your true identity. Before Abraham was born, I am. It's be still and know that I am God, not worry and stress and wait for the 3D to change and oh, I've manifested and now I have to look for signs. No one is asking you to suffer. God is love. And I understand, I get it. The law of attraction gave everyone the impression that you attract something or someone into your life. But as I've delved more deeply in other videos, you have to be that which you want to emit that vibration of, because it's the vibration of already having it, of already being that person, which attracts everything in alignment with it. And you can do that through forming beliefs, by aligning with the feeling now, but you can also achieve that through faith despite how you feel and what you believe, by acting as the I am within you now, the operant power. So by all means feel relaxed about money if you want money. Be excited if you want excitement in your life. Or you can choose to declare it through affirming, this is the person I am now, living this version of reality, regardless of what your human self thinks or feels about it. That's you acting as the I am, as someone who recognizes their true identity. If you're focused on reality within, living it out, in there, declaring it to be this way from the acknowledgement of the divinity within you, that is you acting in the likeness of God. So why would the 3D have to be any different? It's the paradox of manifestation, but as frustrating as that can sometimes appear, that's how it is. And you only need to experience it once for that paradox to be irrelevant. You'll completely understand it. You are the operant power. You suffer over negativity because you have made a judgment. You have defined them to mean, I am without. I can't have that. This is blocking that. This is blocking my manifestation. When ironically, this is proof you're always acting as the I am. Even then you're placing those judgments and determining the rules from which you can manifest anything. Something only blocks you, including your thoughts and emotions and feelings and beliefs, if you say it does. As the I am. Of course, feeling good feels good because it's in alignment with your inherent state, right? And that will naturally happen for you more consistently the more you sacrifice creating rules and forming negative limiting judgments upon yourself that is going to determine the outcome. Hear this, the more you experience the power of faith, the more your human self, your neurology will form the belief to support it. That's all I do now. I love myself as the Father loves me, as His child of God, and that's all I attract because that is all I am conscious of being. But hear this, you can act in faith regardless of internal and external circumstances from the knowing that I am resides within you. This is where the symbolic meaning of Jesus' mission becomes critical. Jesus came to show us the truth of our divine nature, to awaken humanity from the illusion of separation, not just to sacrifice our sin. Look at the story of His disciples. They could not stay awake in the Garden of Gethsemane, even though He asked them to watch Him, to keep their focus on Him. Sleep represents humanity's state of ignorance, trapped in the illusions of the material 3D world. Jesus came to bring gnosis, the word for knowledge, to God's people, and his entire life and teachings are dedicated to demonstrating what the divinity within you can do when you act on faith in the unseen. And faith and belief are one of the same meaning in that context. Faith is knowing that what you want is already yours. As it says in Matthew 17:20, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, small, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Luke 16:10, the person faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. It takes the same level of faith to manifest $1 million as it does a cup of coffee, which I'm sure you've heard before, but you need to enact it so that you can experience that, so you don't need me. So choose it. What's within your reality? Why are you withholding what you want from yourself by focusing on what you do not want out there and all the circumstances you face out there, if it's only creating suffering and not generating the result you want? Stop doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. By choosing to be deceived by the 3D, which is only the effect of the cause you are living out within reality, you are guaranteeing the repetition of a cycle you don't even want to manifest. What's it going to take? How much stress or anxiousness or upset are you going to create and suffer through within your reality in response to the 3D before you decide to choose differently, to exercise your power, your faith to your benefit? How long exactly are you going to perpetuate this cycle of what you don't want before you decide to go within? God's never let you down. He has never not delivered what is within your reality. Look at your 3D. That's only the materialization of your internal state, of who you are conscious of being. That's all it is. So who do you decide you are? The human limited self or the I am? Now you are conscious of being something new. Live that out. Choose that reality. The evidence is not out there. It's in here. It's not final. Nothing is final unless you say it is within reality, unless you keep feeding that reality within. As he said in John 10:34, is it not written in your law, I have said you are gods? He wasn't being metaphorical. He was pointing to the truth that we are made in the image and likeness of God, endowed with the power to create. That's why God says we are made in his image. The I am and the human self are one of the same mechanism. One cannot exist without the other. For the I am to be having a human experience, the human needs to be in existence. You were already chosen to experience co-creation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Breaking news. You wouldn't be here if you weren't chosen. You wouldn't be in existence if you weren't enough. So decide right now how you want reality to be and live it now. Give it to yourself now and release the old version of who didn't know this. Jesus' ultimate sacrifice, the crucifixion and resurrection, was the greatest symbol of this truth, that the old self must die for the true self to rise. And it's not something you have to intentionally focus upon. I've got to let this go, I've got to let this go. No, you sacrifice the old by focusing on the new, as if that is you right now. The brain will do the rest. God will do the rest. And that is echoed in every story, myth, and throughout theology and everything else imaginable. It's the purpose of this human life experience, demonstrated throughout Christian theology in particular. It's always about you going within and acting on faith and sacrificing what is no longer relevant to who you are now conscious of being. In Gnostic teachings, Jesus is seen as calling humanity to awaken the dream of separation, to remember their divine origin. It's not that we're becoming something new, it's that we're waking up to who we've always been. I am. That's the journey. And the Gnostics understood this awakening as the ultimate sacrifice, letting go of the illusion of the old self, the version of you who is still desiring something as if you're in lack, to realize the truth of the divine within you is already fulfilled. Because nothing is withheld from you unless you say it is. And you make up these rules all the time. You'll catch it the next time you go, oh, I feel so afraid that's going to block my manifestation. You do it all the time. You focus on the worst whilst hoping for the best and wonder why it doesn't manifest. You place all these rules as if I've got to be high vibration in order to manifest something. I've got to stay in alignment through feeling in order to manifest this. Don't you realize you're making these rules as the I am? Think about it. And how many of you have manifested an amount of money you were so sure it was yours, and then something happens in the 3D and you didn't get it from where you thought it was going to come? So you decide it didn't work. You were still relying on the 3D to prove it was yours. That's why you fell for the illusion that it wasn't there. And so sacrificed your faith, and so it was. You never stop acting in faith. You sacrifice everything but your faith in the unseen reality. It doesn't matter what happens in the 3D. It doesn't matter who says what. It matters what you say is happening within reality and being faithful to that. Mark 4:22, for nothing is hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret except to come to light. What's the light? God. What's done in secret? Within you. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. The good, the bad, the ugly. It all manifests. And I cover all the ways you can manifest on this channel, but today we're focused on choosing to have faith by being consciously aware of your I am within. Become awake to this. Stop disappointing yourself from a position of power over 3D transient conditions. Bob down the road doesn't have more authority than God. Stop worshipping two gods, the 3D and within you, and make the choice. That's how Jesus overcame the world. He demonstrated acting in faith in God's ability to manifest what you bring to Him within. But you've got to sacrifice the version of reality you don't want to experience. The story of Cain and Abel taught us that. They were brothers, and Abel had faith that transcended 3D conditions of his life. That's why God declared him righteous in His sight. Because he was. His sight was righteously focused within here. He set his mind on things above and not on earthly things. He didn't give his power away to 3D circumstances. He remained faithful to the unseen, within where he declared how reality was for him now. He wasn't bound by the limitations of the seen 3D material world, but instead he acted out of faith in God's unseen promises and provision within him. Abel's offering, the sacrifice, was a lamb. He was a shepherd. He offered a lamb, which not only represents the foreshadowing of Jesus Christ, who is often called the Lamb of God, right? But represents a substitutionary sacrifice. Sin, which becomes clearer in Levitical law. You may recognize sin as missing the mark, right? But it also means to not know who you are, your true identity, I am, and remain victim to your own creations you made whilst asleep, to the knowing that the divine is within you. That's why you're operating like Cain, the brother who offered the fruit of the ground, Genesis 4:3. You keep one foot in the 3D and one in reality within you. You worship two gods. You use manifestation techniques to get something external to you, to change 3D circumstances and not to change your state within. You're half in and half out because you won't believe it until you see it. But I ask you, what do you have to lose if you're already in circumstances where you don't have what it is you want? It's hardly a big ask to sacrifice what you don't even have right now, or what's not working. What's it going to take for you to go within and remain faithful to reality, the reality you choose? Genesis. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you so angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, Sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. So let me ask you, why are you angry, upset, jealous, or stressed or worried over 3D circumstances when nothing is being withheld from you within reality, when all you have to do is focus on reality within? By placing your faith in the 3D, you're giving in to sin because it can only reflect your previous state of consciousness where you were in lack, when you believed you couldn't have this or be with that person because of other 3D circumstances blocking you as you decided it. Sacrifice the heartbreak that's fueling the separation. Sacrifice the old story and the reasons why you can't be together. Sacrifice the focus and attention on the bills and how much you can't earn in this time and what is missing, and set your minds on things above and not on earthly things. You need to turn that into a song. You don't have to feel it or believe it when you are acting in faith. When you are acting in faith. Faith in the I am is a vibration. Do what is right, what is expected of you to co-create your human life experience from within. To pray is to claim it. And you can claim it in numerous ways, infinite ways. I initially did it through beliefs and feelings. We all can. But claim it in faith if nothing else is working. If you have decided you can't believe it or feel in alignment with it, act on faith. You're not supposed to pray as a form of begging, the position of not having it, as Neville said. You claim it. And the Bible is filled to the brim of stories that demonstrate the results of acting in faith. So what's it going to take? All the Gospels are instruction manuals of how to become at one with the divine, of how to be Christ. And speaking of stories, did you watch the Netflix movie on Mary? Tell me what you thought in the comment section below. Her acting in faith and the power of keeping your mind firmly on the I am was incredible. So let's break this part down, okay? The Gospel of Matthew describes how Joseph, a righteous man, initially considered quietly divorcing Mary. Okay, because he believed that she had been unfaithful. Everyone in the 3D was telling him this wasn't right, that she needed punishing. That was the sin knocking at his door, as he could not understand how she could be pregnant without having been with another man. Understandable, right? Now, we all start off like that, right, in our own way. We all at first think, how can this be possible? His reaction is rooted in natural human skepticism and a reliance on the physical world, because that's what the brain is designed to do, to navigate the 3D world, not the kingdom of heaven. So what do we expect? He only believed and relied upon what he could see and comprehend through his senses. He had doubts, as all humans do, when they're relying on their past human experiences to give them hope or to predict what happens next. All your human mind is designed to do. Remember that. It's limited. It can't create the new without your conscious input, which is the I am guiding and directing it and exposing it to a new reality. It can't inherently and spontaneously act on faith. You have to choose it, guide it as the I am. Just like you, Joseph could not yet perceive a higher truth. So understand, you're going to be in doubt. Your human self doesn't have experience yet that your faith is your fortune, but it doesn't matter. We know neurologically that you're going to place your faith in what you've already experienced, but just because you're unaware of your power doesn't remove that power from operating within you. And that is what you're awaking to from your sleep now. Make a new choice to place your faith in the unseen despite what your human self thinks or feels or believes. Did you really think that God turns his back on you just because you feel afraid or worried? That's not the definition of love that he set. That doesn't even make sense. Joseph's initial reaction mirrors the story of Thomas in the New Testament, often referred to as doubting Thomas. These characters all represent you and I and our various emotional states. It's genius. Anyway, Thomas declared he would not believe in the resurrection of Jesus until he could physically see and touch the wounds. Joseph's challenge was similar, right? He couldn't fully embrace the miraculous until something beyond his immediate understanding occurred. You will gain the experience through the fruition of faith, but you have got to make the first move. Now, Mary, of course, exemplifies the opposite stance, right? What we should be behaving like. Mary embodies the essence of faith in the unseen, believing in the promise of God and the manifestation of the divine, despite the impossibility of the situation, based on human understanding. What you choose to experience within reality doesn't require you to use logic or anything other than faith to have happen. If you're living within that reality, if you keep choosing to live out that version of reality that you prefer, you're sacrificing the former self who wasn't doing that, who was unaware of the power, who was suffering in lack. But there's always a sacrifice in order to manifest, always an exchange. You cannot feel worry and separation and label them and judge them as final to mean that you're never going to get what you want, whilst expecting to produce the opposite. You've got to make a choice of what rules govern your reality, because you're the one deciding them anyway. So you've got to make a choice of where you place that faith. The how is never your concern because you have it now. The how everything works out, the signs, the symbols, the movement, the change, is all within you. You always look within, and you never actually know, guaranteed, how it all came together until after the fact. Look what happens when you're in doubt. You ask for reassurance, you search for success stories or proof this works, and you find both arguments for and against. It's what is within you is providing that evidence. But you've created those success stories and the reasons that caused you to think it's not real. It's only experience that will teach you what knowledge cannot. So put the books down and start acting in faith. Start exercising your faith in what you define as small ways. Build up that experience so your brain understands, because I get it, it's easier when your human mind is on board and not trying to resist your decision with fear, but understand the fear doesn't have to be a reason you can't act in faith and manifest unless you decide it does. It's time to awaken to the depth of power you have, because you're using it anyway to create suffering. Look at Mary's faith. It enabled her to sacrifice the external challenges and the societal judgment, also symbolised by the presence of the devil, who represents in this context negative thinking, doubt, worry, concern, fear that was trying to influence her to stop choosing God, to give up and concede to 3D conditions. Her faith created that space for the miraculous to unfold, giving birth to Jesus, who represents not just a physical being, but her birth into Christ consciousness within. Her faith enabled her to stand up to King Herod, who represents the controlling ego focused on controlling the material world, and it protected her against harm. You don't need any other evidence than what you're experiencing within you now. Be still and know that I am God. Then state how things are for you now, that you are the person who has it, is with that person now. That's what you persist in. Faith in the unseen. Faith that you're living your wish fulfilled now. That will sacrifice the old self, who is stuck desiring things, stuck in the delusion of the 3D world. That's why Neville Goddard said, the day you dare to remain faithful to your assumption, it will begin to materialise itself. But it has to first fully materialise within here, to the point where you do not need the 3D to change. So be the prodigal son, which represents the idea of leaving behind an old limiting version of himself, the reckless, self-indulgent son that only believed in what his senses told him was true, and his return to the Father, symbolising the sacrifice of his old identity and the acceptance of a new identity as a beloved son who has faith in the unseen, now worthy of forgiveness and love, by choosing to act in faith. Get up, as Jesus often says, and walk in your chosen version of reality. Thank you for all the likes and shares and subscribes. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and for those joining the membership channel, if you require any one-to-one help, booking information will either be pinned in the comment section below or available on my YouTube profile. It's my pleasure to serve you all. And here is what YouTube thinks you should watch next.